across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. And do you know what? It was a real rush into the studio today, which is unbelievable, considering normally we have to swap over from Kev, and he's in the studio. Harry Cole is downstairs, and therefore we had an hour to get in, and still it was a last minute.
But we were all discombobulated because we're used to Kev being in it, so we sort of didn't know what to do. It's like, you know what I mean?
OK, this is the paper review, so I'll tell you what, let's get straight into it. This is Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Pete Barnes. What have we got on the front page, Asher?
Well, let's start with the Soaraway Daily Mail and show us your digital papers. And this is the news. The economy is moribund. Socialism rules. Please come knocking if you say or think the wrong thing. Now in an authoritarian new plan that will make Britain even more like East Germany, citizens will be forced to carry ID cards. We're basically entering 1984. Keir Starlin and the Stormzy police force will come and take you away, and gradually it will be added on. You'll only have to buy things with it. They'll ban you from, like, train journeys. You'll be banned from pubs as a punishment. They've already mooted that. They'll add more things until, you know, you'll be asked for your papers and be refused. And you can be debanked.
So let me just understand this. I wrote an article a few years ago, Why I Hate the City of Southampton. And it was all about this. I went for a few drinks in the city of Southampton a few years ago, and every single bar I went to asked for ID, even though I was 35, which I just didn't have.
Yeah.
Right?
You've got a very good complexion.
And they demanded passports, prove-it card. Obviously can't have a prove-it card because I'm not, or driving licence. It's basically the plan that we're going to start off with the ID being voluntary, and then basically every bar is going to...
mandatory for adults.
Okay, go on, explain,
so basically,
Pete.
this is looking very similar to the kind of the Belgian model, where it's going to be mandatory for adults. Its kind of central role is going to be providing legal status, so it's things for work and training and housing and things like that, where you're going to have to provide this to get on the jobs ladder, to get on the housing market. This is how it's going to start, because what's interesting is this is being framed to control abuse from immigration and to control the migration process. The problem
is the story they're using
that
to
is
bring
the point.
it in, yeah.
Mission creep.
Yeah.
This is the start of a very slippery slope where we do have this all kind of started to attach onto it, and we have this kind of social credit score system that China will have. But whether it's that extreme doesn't really matter. It is the fact that this is the potential, and unless
it's the apparatus.
Yeah, and we haven't seen any of the safeguards.
Let me just understand this. So, what I don't understand about this is. Let's think about the basic transaction. You can pull me up if I'm wrong. We've got people coming to the country on small boats, right? We don't know who they are, but we don't care. We're going to let them stay in the UK anyway. How does a digital ID have any impact on that whatsoever?
Well, basically, their argument is that it would control because basically people could just come here and then they just claim whatever and all the rest of it. What you did is once you kind of centralise the system and everybody's on the same thing, then you could actually find fake IDs. That is actually going to be one benefit. There is an increase in the number of people scamming, and fraud has gone through the roof, and actually this would clamp it down quite nicely. But their actual whole argument just doesn't really stack up. This is yet again the government doing something which is just a distraction rather than doing what they need to do, which is dismantling the legal framework, which is the ECHR and all that stuff. This is yet again an excuse to bring in state control, state observation, and a kind of control of behaviour, which is what it's eventually going to be.
Let me tell you why I don't carry ID.
Yeah.
Right. There is a system called Club Scan. And I'm not going to be critical of these people, but Club Scan effectively have come up with this great idea. What you can do is you can get your passport, your driving licence, or your prove-it card, and they scan it on the system at the nightclub that you go into. Younger people are going to be very familiar with this. Now, I don't know who Club Scan are, but neither do you.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But at the moment, they must have, 10 million passport details within their system?
Yeah. But this is one of the big things, is actual safeguarding of the information. I know you always joke that there's more chance of a civil servant leaving it on a train than
exactly.
And I think this is a real problem, because we've seen some very big data breaches. Let's look at the Afghan list that with the MOD didn't even realise they'd lost it for a year. So they're suddenly saying that we could protect all this data. It's not there. But I will say, though, it is interesting that, say this argument 25 years ago, it was dead. There was no real appetite for it. Now the Overton window has shifted, and I actually think there is an appetite for it. But because of the migrant crisis, because of an increase in crime, people feel the need that we need an extra layer of security, we need extra of this. But it's interesting, isn't it, is that everybody else breaks the law and everybody else suddenly has to have their liberties removed.
Yeah. It's these the people who are working illegally will still be able to continue illegally, and what they'll say is they go, well, to stop that we need to have all your cash and everything on this card. That's where they're aiming, that's when your freedom's gone.
But sorry, just to interrupt, but what the government thinks is happening is not happening. I had a friend of mine when I used to spend a lot of time in Soho, and she was she basically rented out her NI number to lots of other Chinese waitresses, right? And they'd all claim to be her, right? And obviously, what would happen is they would all pay the commensurate tax, and they'd give her a couple of quid, so they'd all work as waitresses illegally. But the point is, they had ID, as in an NI card. They had faked papers or whatever. The triad criminal gangs would sort it all out for them.
So this is the point, is that they say it's going to reduce the kind of increase in paper fraud. So like the old-fashioned kinds of IDs that are being phased out anyway. They say that they will basically be useless. But how long? They say
how long has it been since you've been able to do what Andy Dufresne did in the Shawshank Redemption? Right, it's been quite a long time.
Yeah, it is.
The only person I know genuinely, and I'm not saying he was a crook or anything dodgy like that, but obviously James Whale's real name was Michael, but because it was his stage name, he put it down for his passport and all that. You can't do any of that anymore.
No.
Right? All this idea that you can write off for an NI card or a driving licence or whatever,
it just doesn't work. Yeah, it really is. But I do think that Ash is right, that this is actually about mission creep. This is about using it to kind of then control your access to information, your control where you can go, what you can do, who you can see, and all this kind of stuff. This is yet again more state monitoring from a government that is obsessed with what you're doing. And it is absolutely, beyond the kind of stalker level vibes of, being up in your business.
And in like Holland during the Second World War, they were able to catch the most, Jews there because of their system.
Of the documents.
And the thing is this, you've got to watch out, because if a rogue government comes in, oh, wait a minute, they're already in there, the ones bringing it in. We've got a rogue government and they're bringing in the rogue system.
But let's look at the point, is that actually the foundations to get us here were already being laid. And this is such a good point, Ash, is that we haven't been thinking about what if somebody bad gets into power.
Well, like Keir Starmer.
Yeah, or a government that does something that actually has access to your entire life.
Well, actually, let's give a practical example. Hezbollah has imploded, but it is basically an Islamist political party, or at least in part it is. They're going to win in Slough if they get their act together. Yeah. So if you are a resident in Slough and you're Jewish or gay or trans or whatever, then ultimately you will be handing over information about you to a local authority that may well be run by jihadis within the next 5 to 10 years.
You'll have the J on the card like the Nazis did.
But the main point on that one is gay people. It's about adding photo ID to access pornography, for example. You've suddenly handed over a very personal bit of information about a bit of your life that you may not want to share with people.
Actually, I worry very greatly about this data, and I'll tell you why. If you look at it, right, now, I'm not slagging off our friends in Israel. I'm not being critical of them, but they lead the world in data. They lead the world in cybersecurity. And people who go into cybersecurity are ex-spooks, right? Let's just be realistic about it. All of those people that work in cybersecurity who are ex-Metropolitan Police detectives, they weren't. They were in MI5.
Yes.
Right? Let's just be clear about that. Right. So a lot of the security systems that are being used for verification of pornography now are at least domiciled abroad. Many of them also are run by current or former intelligence officers in places like Israel. Once again, not slagging off the Israelis, it's just a fact, right? So what you're doing now is you're handing over the data on every man and woman in Britain to effectively somebody who 18 months ago was in the Israeli Foreign Service.
Yes,
I mean... Now, whether you like Israel or not, that's a poor idea.
Exactly, it is. But what really gets me about this is they've announced the architecture, but they've just allowed this, yet again, this vacuum of safeguards. Who has access? And more importantly, what is the punishment if they access this information wrong? How often is it checked? Who's checking the checkers? There is a lot of kind of back stuff that needs to be announced, and they've missed the opportunity, because they could have announced this as a kind of whole package.
But there's no debate as well, Pete. They're just announcing that it's coming. I mean, there's no political in Parliament.
When you give Keir Starmer over 170-odd majority, this is what Starmageddon
Which,
means.
to be fair, you complained about.
Yeah, this is why I was saying that, you need to be very careful about giving a man like that 170-odd majority.
I worry about the whole thing, because, I mean, that whole So I don't know what website it is, or what app or whatever, but this one where women are able to check their partners. So you go, hey, I'm in Wigan, who's dated Pete Barnes and whatever.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But all of those faces were leaked on 4chan.
Yes.
Because there was a data breach.
Yeah.
Right. So effectively, at some point, you've got to expect all your browsing history, and then with this, everything else about you to go into to fall into the hands of somebody else. And of course, the other thing is, we all know what the Chinese embassy is, that data centre to attempt. And just to explain to everybody who doesn't understand, what the Chinese are now doing is copying every piece of data that exists on the internet. They can't read all of it, but when quantum computing comes, they believe they'll be able to decrypt the lot.
Oh, without a doubt.
And that's why they need that site at the Royal Mint, because it's halfway between the City of London and Canary Wharf.
Which the head of MI5 and MI6 and the head of the FBI says shouldn't be done, but Dave Lammy and no-brainer Rainer when she was in power.
There is also quite a
why are they saying that?
Oh, don't even get me started on that. Like, the links between the Labour Party and China need a full investigation. But one thing I will say is quite funny. This has been announced on the same day that Jaguar Land Rover was the victim of one of the biggest cyber attacks we've ever seen. The government is actually going to step in and save this company, basically, because of the knock-on effect. And they're announcing that they're going to have everybody's data on a government server. What ridiculous nonsense.
But I know something that nobody else knows, which I got told last week. I've got a friend of mine who worked at the Corsham cybersecurity base, which used to be a nuclear base, and now God knows what goes on there. Anyway, all of the contractors at Corsham, or many of them, got sacked. You know why? Because after the Afghan data leak, the MOD needed to save £1 billion to give to the Afghans, so they cut cyber security. So literally, there was a cyber security leak, right? And then they said, "I'll tell you what the solution to this is. Let's bring 100,000 Afghans here."
It's like it's your fault. You're going to be punished for it.
Exactly right.
That is absolutely obscene. However, does not surprise me.
But I'll tell you one thing about cyber security in general, and we probably all don't know enough about the subject, but. During the Second World War, the government didn't say, we are protecting our building from Nazi bombs, but yours is private sector, you'll have to do your own security. The whole country was protected by the taxpayer.
Well, I mean, it's like this M&S, hacker, that actually cost the Exchequer millions and millions of pounds, so it is a national
and this is the point with the Jaguar Land Rover thing, is actually, when you take out a company like that, it's not just Jaguar you take out, it is all the kind of subservient companies around it that rly on
the British economy.
And, you
by the way,
I think it was about 250 companies.
Before we go to the next front page, so we've done the Daily Mail, but this is meant to be a press preview, but we've got to talk about the Gaza flotilla, right? Right, please, because let me just understand this, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So currently they're all listening to Dancing Queen on the radios, because the radios have been intercepted. But here is the reason they're being played Dancing Queen, because the flotilla set off with Greta Thunberg, that great remorseless idiot that gets wheeled out on a regular basis, with all of these Palestinian protesters and whatever on board. Then they got picked up a load of LGBT activists, and the Gazans kicked off because they're massively homophobic. And Greta's had a falling out with them. And we presume the Israelis are now playing Dancing Queen to them in order to anger the protesters. Is that a first summary, Pete, of what's happened?
I think so, yeah. Because, to be fair, I quite like Dancing Queen. However, hearing it that loud...
We're going to play at your wedding.
Yeah, okay, probably. But it's rather ridiculous, I have to admit. The kind of world and reality hitting these people in the face is very entertaining when they suddenly realise that people from the Middle East don't like gay people.
Yeah.
Well, it literally would hit them in the face if they got to Gaza and they chuck them off a building.
I know we joke about it, but we should send Quiz for Palestine to Palestine.
I totally agree.
And to be fair, though, I do go back to Douglas Murray's point that you could go now because there's no tall buildings to throw people off, which I thought was quite funny, but in a kind of perverse way. But this is the reality of people living in these liberal bubbles, not realising that the world is not a nice place.
Why do they think? And I've got my reason, and I think my reason is because that's all they're used to. But let's ask both of you the question.
Yeah.
Why do these people think that the default position is to live in a free democratic society when they look around the world? I mean, they genuinely seem to believe, these people, that you can promote jihadis, you can promote radical Islamists, you can promote, Vladimir Putin, you can support President Xi of China, but if those people get the whip hand, everywhere will be democratic, free and open.
Yeah.
Why do they... What is it?
It's the fundamental difference between the left and the right. The real difference between the left and the right is the left believe everybody is good and the right believe everybody is inherently bad.
Yes.
And so therefore it depends on your kind of outlook on what you think human nature is.
Yeah.
Their view of human nature is that, they're only like this because of their environment. You change the environment, they will change as people.
Yes.
That is not true.
That's why they still eat
that is, for
swans.
me, that's the difference. And
You know what
that
I
is
mean?
why
I mean,
that
Emily
stuff.
Matey says, oh no, there's definitely not been any swans eating. He's lying. I mean, she's the liar there. And they're just saying that so they can't, so we can't say, you see, they are a different culture.
See,
from
my thing on this one is I think that those of us who are very
amazing, by the way, when you put Greta Thunberg in a boat, the thing that Asher thinks about is swans.
Well, it's just the one
like
swan.
a beautiful
Well,
graceful...
we used to eat swans here a couple hundred years ago. It was a real gourmet dish.
What you're thinking? You're thinking about. He's thinking. What best summarises Greta Thunberg on a boat?
Swans.
A graceful,
An ugly duckling
beautiful...
that becomes a
do you know where the feet go underneath?
An ugly duckling that a bus has run over.
But it never becomes the beautiful swan. That's the thing. It becomes
How dare you?
an ugly swan.
My point on this one is that I was talking about it earlier with the swans is stick to the crime, stick to sexual crimes, stick to the economic impact. You don't need to wander down these avenues to say how awful the immigration crisis is. Stick to this stuff. We've got the window, we've got people's attention, you've got the data, you've got the evidence. Focus on this. This stuff makes us look
But
ridiculous.
here's what upsets me, Asher.
Yeah.
I was reading back some news reports from the 1970s, right?
Yeah.
About the Ayatollah Khomeini, Ali Khomeini, who they basically said, look, all right, he has said some fruity things, but you watch. When he gets into Iran, him and the left will make it a utopia in the Middle East. Now, what has happened subsequently is they've gone, oh, hey-ho, we were wrong. They barely even said that. But what worries me is if China becomes the most powerful country on earth and all of our democracies crash and we're all being spied on and the social credit system goes global, these stinky lefties will just go, oh, well, never mind, we didn't realise.
Yes, they will.
That's all they'll do.
Yeah, because the idea of accountability and taking responsibility for their own actions and the consequences of those actions just doesn't exist to them.
Exactly
because,
right.
again, it's not their fault. Because they're doing all of this.
Because they're trying their best.
Yes, they've tried their
But
best.
they all
and
got
more
murdered
importantly,
in Iran
they're
very
better
quickly
people.
after
They
the
still
revolution.
had the better idea.
Because
and that's what matters to them.
many people, even people watching and listening to this show, believe there's such thing as a well-meaning genocide.
Yes, exactly.
Which is, well, we didn't really mean to.
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
And all, I mean, you even look at that situation in. I mean, let's look at Owen Jones. You're not gay, man. You don't understand. You're not gay.
Still funny.
Right. Let's be clear. He believes that every woman should be believed when she accuses a man of rape or sexual violence, unless it's during a genocide.
Yes,
right?
100%.
In the one circumstance where women should probably almost universally be believed.
When he's
was
seen the
one
video
occasion.
evidence, but he hasn't actually seen
So,
it.
for example, there was a guy on another station, and he was talking about why there are no women and children when you see the boats. The reason is because they get sold off into sex slavery,
Yeah,
and the kids
I
are
didn't
used for
realise
all.
that.
Yeah,
I hadn't realised
it's
that.
actually dangerous for them to come. That is why there aren't any. He was saying it's because the journey's a bit rough on the sea.
Well, it's definitely
not.
rough.
It is actually the criminal element has ravaged these people, and they are it's not safe for them. And he was trying to make it out that that doesn't happen. They're only coming. It's just they're coming.
But we also-
I was like, you have to be.
But we also have
so blind.
We
to
get
it.
these people from third world dumps, right? And I get criticised for calling them dumps, but let's be honest, they are. I mean, Somalia's just a shed, right? And we sort of go, we don't know who these people are, but they're definitely all right.
Yeah, well, if you look at this,
it's like garbage,
yeah, if you look
isn't
at what I call the pass the migrant deal with France,
Yeah,
is it a pass
pass
the,
the
is it a
migrant
pass the
deal.
parcel? Nobody wants to be the one where the music ends, but
It always ends at Dover.
It does always end at Dover. But what I will say is, they get to deny anybody who we don't have security clearance for. That is all of them. And
Yeah.
so the deal itself will break down because France will just say, well, we don't want them because you don't know who they are.
Exactly.
They do proper checks and all the rest of it. We don't do that
But
here.
isn't the one in, one out basically?
The
I mean,
hokey-cokey?
I mean, we'd have been better calling it better out than in.
Yeah.
But anyway, but anyway, But the problem is, aren't these people we were going to deport anyway? And now what we have to do is take one person in for everyone who we're going to deport anyway.
I think it's like you have a 1 in 17 chance or something ridiculous like that. When somebody's it's crazy. There's no deterrent.
I remember phoning up Peter Cardwell when he was political editor of talkTV, and I said to him, Peter, is it true what's just been reported on Talk? Because I thought somebody had lost their marbles, that for every person we sent to Rwanda, we were going to take a disabled Rwandan back into the UK, right? And the answer was, yes, that is true. No, that's not what Cardwell said. He said, I didn't believe it until I phoned Downing Street and they confirmed it was true.
There's probably a lot, though, from that machete genocide.
Well, of course so.
Yeah, But, I mean, 10,000 people died in 2024 crossing from Africa to Spain in the boats. There was over 70 killed and tortured on one boat with Africans accusing them of witchcraft.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago.
And we welcome them in with open
And this
arms.
is the blood on the hands that the European leaders have encouraging it.
Yeah, it's not just their hands. It's on the lawyers. It's on the charities. It's on everybody that says
UN.
they're just coming here because they're coming from a war-torn nation.
We have got people who are becoming unbelievably rich in the Inns of Court, at the bar, who are making a fortune out of this.
I call it the Gould bar now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I find
they're accessories to the crime.
Yeah, I think they are. I think the blood on the hands analogy is 100%, and this is why the legal framework won't be broken down, because people are making money out of it. It is an industry now, and it is perverse. I think the British government is now kind of implicit in the kind of human trafficking, because that's what.
And we're the ones paying for it.
And it is the British
blood on our hands.
I just want to say one thing. I didn't know Berghaus still existed until I saw Greta Thunberg. Right, what? She's still wearing a Berghaus jacket. I mean, they were fashionable in about 1995.
I was going to say, I remember my parents having Berghaus waterproofs.
What's wrong with Berghaus?
No, if you're a Scal in Liverpool in the 90s, you're Berghaus, mate.
Yeah. It's one of those brands, though, isn't it? It used to be quite outdoorsy, and then it became really kind of like inner city kind of thing, scally thing.
I'll tell you what. After I left university, I briefly had this job in this accounts department, and the head of accounts came in wear your own clothes day with a Slazenger t-shirt. Slazenger.
Yeah. Do you remember all the football?
I was going to say, never seen a tennis court in his life. He's seen a different kind of court.
Do you remember when all the football hooligans started wearing Burberry, and Burberry were like, oh no.
Oh yeah. Because Burberry was another one. It became rather scally.
It was awful, wasn't it? Burberry lost
They lost a fortune.
Mind you, the thing is about Burberry, I'd rather a chav wore their gear, because otherwise it was just perverts, wasn't it? Those Macs.
Oh God, Well, that was the thing with all those big fashion houses, is they suddenly realised it was easier to sell an idiot 80 quid t-shirt than it was to make 1 or 2 couture dresses a year.
That's
exactly what they did.
Absolutely right. Hello to everyone at Boy London.
Yeah.
Okay. How is the screen printing business? Fruit.
By the way, Mike Graham, if you're listening in the morning, is on in the morning in about 40 minutes. So look, there he is. Go away, Mike. You put me off when you're staring at me. But it's Andre and Ash. Pete's here. We're going through the papers. Give us a ring, 03444991000 for the next hour. Book your call. We'll call you back. And you're listening and watching Talk back in a couple of minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk. This is the paper review with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Pete Barnes. I've got to be honest with you, I'm just feeling a bit dejected now, because having completely hijacked the first segment to talk about Greta Thunberg, we can't
talk about it now.
Can't spend the rest of the time doing it. So instead, what we'll have to do is talk about Nicolas Sarkozy.
Oh yes.
I'll tell you what was bizarre about Nicolas Sarkozy. I remember when he came on the state visit to Windsor a few years ago. He was due to be about 4 days or 5 days, and he just cut it short and went home halfway through because he was bored.
Well,
did he go to Libya?
I must have, yeah, because that seems to be what he's all.
Do us a favour, because you're like Stato from the Fantasy Football League, right? Tell us what happened, Pete.
Oh, well, so this seems to be that in 2005 he seems to have done a deal with the Libyan government, which was Gaddafi, and they seem to have allegedly funneled money into his campaign funds,
like suitcases of cash.
Yes, in return for diplomatic favours, which is a huge scandal.
Yeah, so that's
itself.
just straight out. So it makes you. If you were guilty of that, you would be effectively a Libyan intelligence officer.
Yes, essentially.
A Libyan intelligence agent, not officer.
This is the really important bit. They were never able to prove the money landed in the accounts. So he's actually been kind of charged and convicted on allowing this kind of thing to go on, which is really interesting how that's a law, but it's France, so it's that. He is the first French president to actually go to jail.
And will he actually go to
He's the first head of state since Louis XVI to go to prison.
Yeah.
He's appealing it.
Yeah, he's going to appeal it. Of course he will. But his two major aides have been, one's on house arrest, one's on deferred because they're very unwell. So
this is like with
one died apparently on the run in Libya or something.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is
amazing.
Quite. I cannot wait for the ITV drama of it.
It's amazing.
Quite a thing.
Sarkozy's people seem to die in almost as big numbers as the former bodyguards to Hillary Clinton.
Admit, they do seem to drop dead.
All of them are dead.
Yeah.
But actually, you always know when the papers think you're guilty when they've picked that particular photo, or if you're smoking outside the court.
You know,
if you're smoking,
they're never really in the Savile Row suit, or they're always just around the back of the sheds or something like that.
Absolutely.
They have them on file.
So is this going to be? I know nothing about the French legal system.
Yeah.
Is this going to be, 15 years of appeals and then he'll die of old age?
Well, we don't know because it's not really ever got this far.
Right.
So we don't really know.
Territory.
But it is interesting though that there has actually been a substantial increase in the convictions of former heads of government since 2000. There's a report that says 76 countries have had leaders either prosecuted or jailed since leaving office since 2000. It is interesting how administrations are spending so much time prosecuting and pursuing the previous political.
Is there a lot more corruption now?
But that's the interesting point.
To be fair, there's multiple. There's 3 axes actually, which makes it 4D, doesn't it? Anyway, or something like that. But one of the axes is that governments are more likely to prosecute their former their erstwhile colleagues. Then there's the other option that there is more corruption going on, but I think the third option is probably more likely. There are a lot more records that exist.
I think that's
digitally,
and also the citizen journalist.
Yeah, the old days when basically what could happen is a big shredder and a bonfire could destroy all evidence of everything. Those days are long gone.
Oh, yeah.
And what happens is, as people say, they used to say it on Crime Watch all the time, loyalties change over the years. So it might well be, and I've seen this loads of times, where there'll be a text message exchange between 2 very good friends. 20 years later, they absolutely hate each other. If you remember the jailing of Jeffrey Archer.
Well, all the WhatsApp,
WhatsApp
leaks.
The WhatsApp leak, there was one, was it to do with John Ashworth and his comments about Jeremy Corbyn, where friends set him up over a telephone call, and they'd been friends for decades.
Yeah.
So you are right, the loyalties
also the guy who made lewd comments about Diane Abbott, I didn't read those. Right, that was
emails.
You didn't need to read them, you wrote them.
There's emails from Crooked Hillary, from Fergie we've seen lately. There's always a digital footprint.
I think this is also the point, there is now a digital footprint, but I do think the rise of citizen journalists where they are pursuing this stuff rather doggedly has contributed to a lot of this.
I suppose this comes back to this question once again about the Peter Mandelson, Jeffrey Epstein thing. And I'll tell you why it comes back to that. Because there is an argument that goes, what Mandelson basically did was go, just send a supportive text or send a supportive letter. How many times have you had a mate who's got into trouble in politics or in the papers and you go, hey, I'm 100% behind you, and do nothing?
Do nothing,
right? The problem is now, all of those are going to come out about anyone. So like in my case, every one of my friends that's ever been accused of wrongdoing, I don't think any of my friends have ever been convicted of anything, but they've all had supportive text messages, right? So if any of my mates ever were to get into trouble for anything, they'd always be able to say, Andre Walker backed him.
Yes.
Right? Whereas actually what I
Yeah.
did was got drunk, sent a text message and forgot all about
Yeah,
it.
I consider it the equivalent of sending a happy birthday on Facebook, where everybody does it, but you don't really mean it.
Yeah, that's
and I
right.
think I think you're right. A lot of this stuff will start to be used and weaponized, and it is interesting how you like I said, this is starting to grow not just in what we would consider, say, former banana republics or these kind of those kind of countries. It's in Western democracies. It's
Western banana republics.
Yeah,
The
and
problem
it is
is-
interesting how that is starting to creep in into our politics as well as we start to use the courts so much more in law firms.
I think the other great danger is it's the cover up that kills you.
Always.
Now ultimately that phrase used to be said, but it's now so true, because what will happen is you'll deny something and your line of defence might be. I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine who attended a stag do when he was a Conservative MP where they all dressed in Nazi uniform for a bit of a laugh. Now
That's really funny.
I've got to be
It was funny when Freddie started it. Basil Fawlty. Yeah,
did
but
do-
some people don't, like Richard Madeley and that, don't do it, and Prince Harry don't do it.
They
It's
did
not
it.
funny.
They did it in France, which is actually illegal.
Yes.
So of course our defence for him was, well, he turned up, he wasn't wearing the uniform.
Yeah.
Blah de blah de blah. It was a hazing thing, and when he got there, he couldn't leave. And the problem was the Daily Mirror, I think it was, phoned every single costume hire shop in Britain
No way.
to find out who had the gear, and it was the Tory MP. Now the problem is you can't go out one week saying I was only there, I wasn't involved, blah de blah de blah, and the following week it comes out. You have to just fess
Yes.
up.
Also, it is the problem of 24-hour news.
Yeah.
Everything is on video. There is a digital footprint for everything. You cannot just deny anything anymore because there are records of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing, as it will force everything to be more honest, because now we've got complete institutional collapse. We're going to get more of these kind of.
Oh, by the way, talking of exposing liars who are making fake allegations. Hello to everyone.
Oh, God.
Hello to everyone in Windsor.
Anyway, I think we've got to take a little break again, haven't we, at this juncture? So we'll all convene back here in 2 minutes. Andre Ash with
All on
Pete
camera.
on Talk.
All on camera. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. Yes, it's the press preview with. No, you can bring the phone charger.
Bring the charger,
Bring the
your
phone
son.
charger. Come on. What we have to do is work out where the. I'll tell you what. You get on. It's a paper review. With
Show them your top look. He's wearing bright. Come and show the
Yeah,
people. Come round. Let's
It's
show
the press
that.
preview with Andre Walker, Pete Barnes, and Asher Gould, and that socket does not work, so I can't charge my phone on it.
God.
Right, let's do the Daily Mirror, the heart of Britain, and playing the Brit card. And there's Keir Starmer today expected to announce digital ID Brit cards in a bid to tackle illegal. Well, that's what he says.
Yeah.
Illegal migration. We've already done that. This has all been driven by Tony Blair. Remember, Tony Blair's represented a lot of dodgy countries, hasn't he? as well?
The Tony Blair Foundation. I love how he's made the Middle East peace envoy. I still think that is the greatest.
That is the
troll.
greatest.
It's
It worked,
the
didn't
greatest
it?
troll of all time.
It
I
got
like
worse than ever.
Yeah,
He was the one they most hated.
Yes, I have to admit, it was one of those situations where we say, do you know when the journalists used to get together and come up, what's the most extreme headline? That is the most extreme kind of political position you can create.
It's like when we were doing That Was the Woke That Was, right? Tony Blair's been made Middle East peace envoy. Would have been something that nobody would have believed was true.
As I always used to say on that show, things have got that bizarre that the crazy is the true thing.
Totally.
But
I was going to say on that show, do you remember my favourite one was when the writer of it, Chuck Thomas, came up with a story. Is it true or false that people for the ethical treatment of animals have banned, I want to ban the farming of oysters on the grounds it's cruel to the oysters, even though they have no brain or nervous system, ergo cannot feel pain and don't know they're alive. And you were just sat there, and at the time the answer was it was false, but it became true.
It became true. I was utterly convinced we were giving them ideas.
Yeah,
I am still convinced to this day that after 100 episodes, we helped create woke rather than stop it.
So are oysters really thick then? Is that what you're saying?
They don't feel
not
anything.
thick. They don't know they're alive.
Yeah.
Right,
Can I just say though, on the quickly on the Tony Blair thing, he has got his fingers still in number 10 and all over the Labour Party. It is absolutely astronomical.
Well,
his influence is
when
everywhere.
he left, he bought a townhouse just like number 10, and he bought a place just like Chequers, and he brought his own staff so he could still pretend he saw prime. And he almost is prime minister.
You usually do that with very deranged old people, don't you? Saying, "Oh, here you are. Do you remember this?"
Yeah. I used to be prime minister, you know.
Oh, I bet you did.
That's what's happened, isn't it? The Daily Express. Schools should ban phones to protect the nation's pupils. I agree with this. Schools should ban smartphones to protect pupils from bullying and porn, the Tories said last night. It's always about the children, but this is actually a good thing.
Okay, so do you know how we always
it's banned in Australia?
Yeah, Ronald Reagan always used to say the most dangerous words is "I'm for the government, I'm here to help." The next one is what won't somebody think of the children? This seems to me that yet again it's one of these kind of control things, which I think should be a parent's job. I'm just throwing that out there. Do you remember when parents were a thing? But we already have laws. And we already have safeguards, and companies have all this stuff. Parents need to step up the game and stop relying on schools and teachers to raise your kids.
They should be banned after 16.
I don't understand why a 14-year-old needs access to a smartphone.
But it affects their frontal. It actually affects their brain.
But haven't Google have launched a product? This is purely me seeing a television advert. But my understanding is Google have launched a product where you can see all your kids browsing. Yeah. You can limit the amount of data you use. You can do things like turn off apps at certain times. So as an example, what will happen is your WhatsApp will work during break, during lunchtime, and on the way home from school, and say up until 9 o'clock. And outside that time, it won't work. I think that's wise. I will say one thing about schools banning phones. To be fair, schools ban all sorts of things because it is a controlled environment. I
They're
think
also
that's
kids.
It's probably preferable. It's probably preferable to saying.
Don't you think it should be banned up to 16 because kids will bully each other, and it does, like I say, affect the brain development.
So I think there are two issues here, and I think there's a balance. Number one, every child's got one, so every child needs one. So that ban would help with that very clearly, right? I think the only other argument is parents apparently really like the kind of GPS tracking and things like that.
You could have that without a smartphone.
Fine. You can literally take the phone, put it in like a box at the beginning of the day at school, like you can take it home when you go home.
The truth of the matter, you don't need it every day. The truth of the matter is modified smartphones.
Yeah. So without the internet on them, just they can chat. You can phone your kid, and they can
I've got a great story about this. Eton College. My mate used to be the master of IT at Eton College or whatever, right? And he said that what they used to do was obviously the Eton College network's very restricted, and you have to plug in your laptop to the cable and whatever. So some bright spark, and it's got no Wi-Fi, Eton College, or apparently didn't, some bright spark went to the local shopkeeper and said, why don't you buy one of these filth internet pipes that's like $5,000 a year that they put in like hotels and stuff, and we'll all give you a couple of quid a week. Apparently there was gigabytes of filth being downloaded. But the point was, that story is amusing, but the answer that Eton College had was they just moderated all the equipment that came in. So they just said, right, if you want to bring your laptop to school, which everyone does, but it has to be chipped in a certain way. I don't know
I kind of remember that when we first were able to take our phones into school, they had to be like somebody from the police came in and they did like something to the batteries and like they were able to be tracked or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like another layer of security on them. I can't quite remember. It was a very long time ago now. But yeah, there are things you can do. There are apps. The tech companies have stepped up their game massively in this area. So I do find this is a little bit of the pearl clutching moment. But as you say, there is now a lot of medical science evidence to say that this is having a detrimental effect.
I got told by a friend of mine whose daughter went to quite a nice school in London. I would say quite a nice school because I'm not saying that there was any behavioural problems or whatever. And what they'd do is they'd have all these WhatsApp groups for the school. And the problem is, the teenage boys would troll the first year girls with sort of inappropriate comments and things like that to upset them. And I think ultimately there's an element of this which is kids will be kids.
Yeah.
Right. The big problem with the quote unquote problem with most bullying is the bully often doesn't know that they're guilty of bullying. The cyberbullying problem is that you're taking what happens in the playground home in the evening and potentially all
so that's there is no reprieve from the bullying as there used to be.
It's a digital Lord of the Flies.
But 100%. But the one thing I will say though is when we're talking about cyberbullying and that kind of stuff, I can't help but point out kids are tech savvy. They know how to get around a lot of this stuff. Look at the thing with the VPN.
That's why you banned smartphones.
VPNs went through the roof when they brought in the HID check because people know how to get around it. They are tech savvy. They know what they're doing, and I can kind of see this happening unless you physically take the phone off them.
Or ban the smartphone, which Keir Starmer obviously doesn't care about children, or he'd bring in that law rather than this.
You can have. I mean, what's got Beanhead? Lord, what's his name? Beanhead. What's Beanhead called? Barmy Brunch. So Barmy Brunch has
from the monster raving lunatic
has a fake BlackBerry. So BlackBerry don't exist anymore, really. But he has one. So it's got all the communications devices, but bluntly, it hasn't got access to all these very fast, quick-acting apps and all this sort of thing. That's not a bad compromise.
Yeah, I've got to say, I do kind of remember that there are companies that do these phones that it is literally basic text message, basic phoning.
Like a Nokia, you can still get them. A lot of kids I've noticed are actually buying these smartphones because it's cool or something.
There also is a big problem of those phones being used in the drug and illegal activities because they are much more difficult to track.
I'll tell you what I got. I got, do you know one of those old handset phones with the dial on the front? I got one of those, put a SIM card in it, right? And I went to visit my mate Alistair. I left it on the table on the train, right? And it didn't need plugging in, it had batteries. So when I was chatting away on the train on this mobile phone, I thought it was cool. Everybody else thought it was an idiot. But.
I've got to say, somebody now thinks they're in some kind of horror movie where you're like the phone's just ringing on its own. Well, I was going to say, it's a very kind of Mrs. Bouquet. Was it a slim white? Was it a pearl white telephone?
No, it wasn't. It was one of those red ones. Actually, I've got. I think
I know which one.
I've got a red telephone in my house, which has got a SIM card in it, which has on the top. It says dial 0 for Kremlin, dial 1 for White House. And I've got one of those old, one of those 1960s, like, remember those things that would make a sticker label? They're called Dynamo. And it looks like an antique. It's superb.
I think you still get them.
Yeah.
Last story on the Express. Lulu reveals her love for David Bowie and his talents. And I've got actually 14 of David Bowie's buttons.
Bowie, not Bowie.
Well, everyone talks in pronounce that's the mystique of Bowie. I've got 14 of his buttons because he came on the show once, and I've got his DNA, and you could share a fag with DNA with Bowie.
Why would you? Sorry, Asher. Let's just be clear.
Let's back up a moment.
I get criticised when they go, look, this gets repeated in the morning. Can you be a bit more serious? You're talking about picking up.
An ashtray full of David Bowie's DNA. We could clone Bowie and have Bowie, and have the.
Did you see him on Extras?
No, yes, I did actually.
It was
Look
amazing.
at his pug-nosed face.
Yeah, because it's quite interesting the friendship between Ricky Gervais and David Bowie, wasn't it? They were like weirdly very, very good friends.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he
also
suck
looked
up with
like
anyone, but he was in the man of the moment. So David Bowie, he loved collaborating, didn't he?
Yeah.
The independent new digital ID card to be compulsory for all UK workers. Does it mean? Because I've heard if you're looking for work, so if you're already in work, but like you say, it doesn't really matter what they're saying now. They're going to expand it, and eventually they'll ban you. You'll debank you on it. If you do something wrong, vote the wrong way, say the wrong thing, they'll ban you from pubs. They're already bringing into law. They want to bring it in. I think the Home Secretary said they want to bring in laws where they can, apart from jailing you or something in the court, they can actually add on. I think you'll be banned from pubs and football.
Yeah, well,
how does that affect? Which group of people does that affect?
They already have a lot of these exclusionary orders.
But what presumably will happen, which we've seen happen on multiple occasions, is people go, Pete Barnes was accused of say, by Pub Watch, of being a bit leery in a pub or whatever. Let's just look him up. Oh yeah, he's got 20 grand in his account. That's interesting. Yeah. What jobs he do? Do you know what I mean?
This is the big point. It is all information in one centralised area with very little detail on who has access to it, why they can get access to it, do they have to go to the courts to get access to it? Like, what is the framework of these civil servants, unknown civil servants, which is going to be having access to your entire life, and we have no idea whether they're looking at it or not. I think there is a big problem here in this vacuum of information.
And it'll be AI looking at it and getting things wrong as well.
So the other problem is, and funnily enough, a friend of mine was telling me about this, and forgive me if IT experts are on and I've got this slightly wrong. What happens with the British government is they tend to have databases with passwords on it. What happens at your bank, the reason why the bank says, do not give me your 4-digit security code or whatever, is because the data doesn't exist unless that 4-digit code unencrypts it.
Yeah, and
right?
also there
so what doesn't happen is the person doesn't go, oh, I'm just checking whether it's you. They literally can't open the detail because the account doesn't. It doesn't exist.
Corporate entities, in general, because I've worked for these big companies before, I are very good at controlling who has access to what information. Unfortunately, the government will find a reason, or there will be a mechanism for, oh, it's an emergency, we had to do it. That kind of vague territory, the grey, is becoming a lot bigger in our nation, and it's being used in very nefarious ways. I think we see it in language and all, in law and all the rest of it. But this is a real problem because of mission creep, because of where this could go with a bad government.
Right, we're going to take a break and we'll come back with some breaking news that former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted, so we'll find out more about that. Don't forget, Mike Graham's on if you're listening in the morning in about 10-15 minutes. More of the papers and your calls in the next hour. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Pete Barnes. What's next, Asher?
Well, just a bit more on that James
Comey.
This is quite interesting. It was the former FBI director ran the agency. This is the guy who's been indicted until mid-2017 when he was fired by Trump over frustration around Comey's refusal to shut down the investigation into whether there was collusion between Russian operatives and the Trump campaign, or publicly rule out the idea that Trump himself was... He's going after the people that were going after him. Could this involve crooked Hillary?
No, so this is quite interesting. So the statute of limitations on whether they could actually indict him on lying to Congress, which is what they're going for, is coming out of the DOJ from the Eastern District, I think in Virginia, if I remember rightly. But there is a lot of evidence, like a lot of legal opinions say there is no way you can actually indict him and all the rest of it. But they are really going after him. Trump has said the decision is up to the DOJ, which it is, but he's claimed he could get involved if he wanted to. That is a very questionable thing for him to do. But it is all to do with the fact that he downplayed the Steele dossier. He downplayed the evidence that shows that Trump was not involved with the Russians. He was very political as the FBI director, and whether he's actually broken the law is up for debate. However, the damage he did to the credibility of the FBI is very clear to see.
What do you think? I mean, they want to bring in some hate laws, hate crimes in the States now. Have you heard about this?
How they're going to get around the First Amendment on that, I don't know. But this is the thing. Aren't
they going to end up in some ludicrous situation like they end up in Texas? If somebody comes on your property and you shoot them and they live, you can be prosecuted. But if you kill them, if you finish them off, it becomes legal. Because they have the constitutional right to kill.
The stand your ground law.
So it's going to be one of these messy bits of law. But the thing is, you have to remember that just like the left here, over there, they are using the courts to push their political agenda because they won't win at the ballot box.
But the Supreme Court have already judged that that First Amendment, the freedom of speech, is it second or first? It stands. So.
Just a matter of interest. Why on earth do the left think all matters of politics should now be decided by courts? Is it
because
just
people vote the wrong way?
Because it gives them control. It gives them control.
Yeah, because what it is they don't have to argue their position.
No.
They now have the legal system, and they can force you into it by that.
And Blair brought in about 20,000, 30,000 laws.
Yeah. But the thing is he did what they call flooding the zone. So he dumped loads of regulation in, and there's a lot of them that we're now starting to find out can be used against the people.
Laws with shady.
But more importantly, it is what I call the tyranny of the vague. It is the kind of the Article 8 of the ECHR, the right to a family life. We know what it means, but we all mean a different thing.
Well, it's like hate crimes. The law hasn't changed, but like 15 years ago, if you'd have said a man can't be a woman, that was fine. But then, you scroll back 3 years ago, it was exactly the same law, but it depends on public opinion, and that's where the law fails.
It's the point of using the word hate, is that it is continually changing. It is a moving goalpost.
It's subjective.
I mean, the EU came up with this, let's have a Charter of Fundamental Rights that can change. Well, hang on, they're either fundamental
or not.
They're changeable.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point. You look at the American way, it is these rights are indivisible.
Yeah,
that is that's the point of it. But obviously, we allow.
Of course, the other thing that's totally bizarre about the American system is that the Constitution originally was deemed to only govern the federal government.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And so the federal government couldn't do all of this stuff, but your local state government could do. And so effectively, a state government could abolish the right to free speech, but you could just move to a different state. That was the whole concept.
Yeah,
originally.
definitely. It was the idea that states' rights was supreme to federal rights. But now, obviously, that shifted when you had the expansion of the state, and more importantly, the expansion of executive power.
I mean, I'll tell you something else. The Second Amendment is not a right to bear arms, it's a duty.
Yes,
and,
it is.
Effectively what they're saying is we're not going to have a standing army of the United States of America. God, that didn't last long. But actually, we want everyone to have a weapon in their house just in case we need to call up a militia.
Again, it is a nation born out of blood. It is a nation born in revolution. We aren't that. So that's why I get really annoyed when British people start talking about American gun culture. You don't know what you're talking about because you're not.
Actually, I've got a really good answer to that. There is a British NRA and an American NRA. They're approximately the same age. The British NRA is 2 years older. And they reflect the culture of the countries. The British NRA is related to sports and owns Bisley. And the American NRA lobbies for widespread gun ownership. And that just reflects the different cultures.
It is interesting that these organisations are some of the biggest advocates of gun safety laws. They want the laws so they can keep the guns. So it's nonsense to me when people keep saying, oh, the NRA just want everybody to have a gun. Yes, but they also want you to make sure you know how to use the thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, Daily Star. Ooh, our Daily Star. Not much on there today. It says Sydney's a step symbol. I don't know either what that means. And it's got Keir's card trick. Keir Rodney.
Right, do you know what we should do? We should try and use AI
not again.
to work out who Sydney's a step symbol. Who that's
She
meant
looks
to
like
be.
Cat Dealey. Is she the one who was in that advert? It's the one in that advert, the denim. She's the hottest
she's
woman
the
at the
denim
moment.
one.
She's got good jeans. Do you remember they all kicked off?
No,
Yeah,
her
yeah,
name
yeah.
is Sydney
Good genes.
Sweeney,
Sydney
apparently,
Sweeney, yeah.
and she is
Very
the
nice.
sexiest woman alive at the moment.
Yeah.
That's because
I love
that's
that
because
at the moment
that's
sounds very sinister.
No, that's because Queen Elizabeth II has died.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Right,
She was the most beautiful woman in the world. Lol.
The Financial Times, Sarkozy set to serve jail term. He leaves court in Paris yesterday after being sentenced to 5 years in prison for criminal conspiracy over accusations. He took millions in suitcases from Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Now, this is interesting. Burnham borrowing spree would rock gilts and hurt sterling, investors warn. Some saying he'll be the next Liz Truss. A lot of people I mean, you look at the state of Manchester, Crackadilly Gardens, it's full of crackheads. And also the grooming gangs inquiry, that was all great in Manchester. There was a big cover-up, and he's the head of the police.
I want Andy Burnham
Which
to
speaks to
run.
Maggie Oliver.
I want him to run. Because we will find out what a crook that guy is.
Hang on,
the sainthood will disappear.
I just want to stop for 1 second. Is Andy Burnham the Police and Crime Commissioner of Greater Manchester?
Yes, he is.
But he wasn't originally, was he?
No, I don't
They've
think
merged
so.
the role
They
recently.
merged the role
Okay, just to be
recently.
clear.
He was when the grooming gangs inquiry.
Yeah.
I mean,
he
there's
was
a guy
also
called
head of the
Riz. We
police.
should get him on the show. I've seen him speak about it.
Yeah.
He basically worked for the government. He's a Muslim guy, and he kept getting arrested because he was getting too close to the truth. And
I tell
we
you
should
now,
get him on the show.
Andy Burnham is no king of the north. He is no saint. He ruined Greater Manchester over COVID, and he has run that place like a fiefdom more than Sadiq Khan
It's
has
full
ruined
of
London.
crackheads in the centre. At least it used to be thinly spread out over the whole of Manchester.
Also,
Now it's all in the middle.
everywhere.
also, can I say to all of our friends at who are watching in the north of England, what about this? What about this announcement by HS2 that what they're going to do is they're no longer going to have doors on the platforms that lead to the trains? And you think, well, that's a very technical announcement. Why is that? It's because they're cutting the number of rail services north of Birmingham.
Yes, they are, and they're also it's this
For
kind of
reasons I won't bore
The
you with.
Manchester to Liverpool one, that's delayed.
All of that's going, and I would remind you that this was a huge kind of axe that was wielded against the Conservatives, that they did nothing for the North. The Labour Party, yet again, lied to your face, and here we are. I'm sorry. The Labour Party is no friend of the North, and the North has to learn this, in my opinion, because how many times could you keep voting for the...
All the money that was earmarked for rail services in the north of England was used on HS2.
Well,
and HS2, just to be clear for everyone who doesn't understand, HS2, it's not about getting to Birmingham more quickly. It's about freeing up capacity in southeast England. So I know all
And
of you,
leaving Birmingham more quickly. That's the main one.
I know all of you in places like Buckinghamshire and whatever are angry about it, but ultimately it's about being able to stop at Tring, Northampton, what is it, Milton Keynes, all of these places more often. But of course now, when you get north of Birmingham, the services are going to be reduced.
Yes,
It's
they
sort
are.
of about
But
capacity in the
is
main.
it's also that, do you not find it fascinating that Andy Burnham is so openly challenging Keir Starmer? Like, he's not even doing palace intrigue games. He's just saying, I'm running for your job. He did the classic line, other people have told me that I should. Oh, by the way, here's a manifesto that I've had prepared.
You wouldn't believe the calls I'm
Yeah,
getting.
exactly.
I love that.
Literally, that was the interview that he gave. Here's what I prepared earlier.
Last paper, because we've got to be quick. The Daily Telegraph, Starmer, Labour got it wrong on migration. That's why he wants to bring in ID cards. Blair ready to lead interim government of Gaza after war ends. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to work really well.
My God.
Bob, BBC says villain death chant, not incitement.
They
Now, of
don't-
course it wasn't. Death to the IDF. That's not incitement.
They don't
worry
even
about it.
hide it anymore. They don't even have the dignity to hide
No,
it.
do you know what? I agree. Let's make Tony Blair the governor of Gaza. I think that's an excellent.
Anyway,
We will
look,
run your
Mike
campaign
Graham,
for free.
he wants to come in. Mike Graham's coming in. So
Okay, well, thank you so much. Mike Graham is up right now if you're listening in the morning.
Good morning. It's a great day, and welcome to the Mike Graham. I'll just add in
why-
a bit.
why
So save him having to do it.
Makes it impossible for them to edit that
you
bit.
can edit that bit.
Right,
Just
okay.
chop it.
Okay.
Skills.
Pete,
No, leave that in, actually.
Pete, are ID cards going to come in, or are they just
I think they will. It will be sloppy. It will be a complete catastrophe. However, it is interesting that the conversation has shifted to people being more in favour of it now than they were about 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah, but it's always the people.
But again, it is because of crime. It is because of immigration. It is because of the issues
Which
that they
it
are
won't
using to bring in more control.
It won't solve that.
That's
All
what it
right,
is.
Pete. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks,
that's a
Pete.
bit,
No worries.
bit of a depressing end.
Yeah.
0344 499 1000 is the number to call if you want to get in touch with us. We've got 3 slots free on the phones, which means if you phone now, you will get through. 0344 499 1000. OK, we'll just be back in a couple of moments.
Call us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Andre and Asher. Look, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that thing that was in the news, which is websites, Ticketmaster, saying that they're going to warn people if there is surge pricing that put in. Look, what worries me, and I don't know what other people think about this, I went the other day and I did I tell you I did that film?
What, the Billy Elliot?
I did the boxing film.
Oh, yeah, tell us about it. You were playing a sort of Gary Newbon type character.
Yeah, I was. It was really good, actually. Really enjoyed
Gary
it.
Newman.
By the way, I will say one thing I hadn't realised. I used to live in Ascot. I didn't know what Longcross was. Nobody ever seemed to get on or off at Longcross Station. Those of you who live in between Waterloo and Reading will probably know. When I got to Longcross, it's basically just a town dedicated to making TV. Netflix had moved in there. There was like dozens and dozens of massive warehouses, like hangars. But anyway, when I got out, I got a lift to Staines, right? This isn't that important.
Staines on Thames.
I wanted to get back to Windsor, right? And I just got let off just at the M25 roundabout at Staines, right? Okay. And it was 16 quid to get back to my house. But actually, no car would pick me up. Right, now I think...
Why, did they recognise you?
No. I think because a lot of the drivers are from the same community, i.e. Pakistani Muslims, I think that they have the same strategy. So, like, if it goes round the community, don't go to Windsor on a Sunday night, you'll never pick up a fare, then nobody ever bothers going. That's my theory, because obviously they wouldn't really know who I was, even if they did. And even if they did, they wouldn't dislike me. But what was interesting was... it was 16 quid. So in the end, I booked a car from where I was to Staines instead of to Windsor, which immediately somebody accepted, and it was £4. Then when I got in the car, I went, oh God, I'd wanted to go to Windsor really, and the bloke went, we'll just change it on the system. The point is, it was £16 before, and now it was £11. Right? The problem is with a lot of these Ticketmaster and people like that is that it's not surge pricing, it's dynamic pricing, which is what it says it says, right, what have you paid in the past? Let me give you an example. I went to see what's his name, the gypsy billionaire, Alfie Best, and I wanted to get a taxi from Ascot to Mayfair, and it was like £80. So instead I got a taxi from Ascot to Pimlico, and it was £50. Now, as you know, Pimlico is further away than Mayfair. So what it's based on,
you got all the tight MPs there.
It's based on like what people have previously paid, what you've previously paid.
Well, it's like the trains, isn't it? You got like Birmingham to Manchester will be this price, but if you go Birmingham, you know, to
split ticketing,
I think they may have fixed that. But
what bothers me is if you and I stood next to each other and we both order an Uber at the same time, then the price will be different to the same place.
Ridiculous.
Anyway, it's something to think about. So I don't mind surge pricing, which is like a Nerline, which is if lots of people want a ticket to go to Malaga this weekend, the price goes up. That's fair enough. It's if they charge different prices to different people. I don't know if Ticketmaster are doing that, and presumably they aren't. Okay, well, I guess everyone's phoning about digital ID, aren't they? 03444991000. Let's go straight to it. Roy in Hampshire. Roy, you're on talk.
Good evening, lads. How are you? All right?
Doing all right.
Morning,
Yeah, just one thing. Well, there's 2 points I want to make with you. One is DVLA. They sell your information to car parks. So how long will it be before the government starts selling other information about you?
So just to be fair, Roy, in defence of the DVLA, what you're talking about is when the deal was done to stop clamping, what happened then was there was an ability of car park owners to get in touch with the DVLA and say, hey, who owns B538CKY?
and they charged £3 or £4 for that, and they made millions out of that.
Yeah, but it does mean that we were able to get rid of clamping.
But he's right. On their ID cards, our medical information will be on there, our genetics. They'll sell it to, like they did in Iceland, they'll sell it to a medical company.
Yeah. The other question I've got for you, if you'll give me a minute.
Of course.
I was watching...
Your 1 minute starts now.
Yeah, I was watching your channel, and a guy comes on, and he was ex-military, and he's investigated Starmer.
Will Geddes, is it?
No.
No, Starmer, apparently, he went to Czechoslovakia when it was a communist country.
Oh, right.
That's right.
And
in the
he did
80s.
work for the Russians. We all know he's a communist.
He went with Corbyn, and they did a little dossier of it, and they said, this Corbyn guy's no good, but let's use this Starmer guy.
What's interesting about this, and I'm merely stealing something that Asher told me, so I always like to flag that when it happens, on the rare occasion it happens. But, no, I'm being rude. Asher made a really good point about this, which is when the KGB files were all opened up about this trip to Czechoslovakia, what it said that the KGB were assessing these people who had come to build this war memorial to people that fought in the Second World War in the Red Army, right? Okay, fought on our side, by the way, it has to be said. But when the KGB met Corbyn, they basically goes, this guy's an idiot. We absolutely do not want to recruit him to the KGB. He's just a liability. And they released lots of these documents, but they never released a document about Keir Starmer. Now, one would have assumed if you'd have seen a young, gifted barrister on this trip, you would have at least given him a tickle or you know, had a word with him or whatever. Giving him a tickle might sound like an inappropriate phrase, but you know what I mean?
Or maybe not.
But then there was no file about him. Now I think somebody said to me,
this was pre the wall coming down, by the way. It was full on communism, USSR back then.
Somebody did say the Russians may not have released his file just in order for us to all believe he was a KGB agent. But it is all dodgy.
Well, it's worked.
Yeah, but what about our Secret Service? They must have a file on him.
Yes.
How the hell did he ever become Prime Minister?
But
they're already saying MI5, MI6 don't build the Chinese embassy. They're being ignored.
I think the other point to make is this.
And the Mandelson thing.
I think the other point to make is this: that loyalties do change, and he genuinely and openly built a war memorial in Czechoslovakia. Now, most people thought it was inappropriate to go to a communist country and help them with a building project, but he wasn't building a nuclear base, right? He was building a war memorial to what they call the Great Patriotic War, the Second World War. And I suppose when the Berlin Wall fell, you could say, well, A, the Soviet Union didn't exist. B, Czechoslovakia was never in the Soviet Union. C, all he did was build a war memorial, and we were on the same side as the Soviet Union then anyway. And there's lots of other things you can say.
Yeah, but they say he built a war memorial, like they say Jeremy Corbyn was at that terrorist funeral by accident handing over the flowers.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I
right.
mean? It's load of
Present but
bunkum.
not involved.
Yeah.
That was the best. That was the best, other than Philip Schofield. What was that? Unwise but not illegal. I mean, just...
Thanks, Roy. Lee in Manchester. All right, our kid.
Hello, how you doing?
All right, yeah.
Now then.
What's going on?
Oh, no, that was...
No! Oh, no.
I tell you what, I've got to
Sorry,
say.
that wasn't Liam Gallagher. I apologise. I apologise.
The move was a bit like that.
No,
wasn't it?
I
Why
was
does
saying-
Liam Gallagher walk like he's just crapped his pants?
Mad for it, mate. Mad for it.
Sorry, Lee, yeah, go on.
Looking like that as well. I must have looked like that when I walked on the house.
All Manx walk like that for some reason.
I've got a theory that Liam Gallagher and Andy Goldstein from TalkSport are the same person. You never see them in the same room.
They
do you?
don't talk the same, do they? National
No,
radio.
it's just-
You might be right.
They're national
You
radio.
might be right. I tell you what, you do. I've just watched Question Time. I do apologise for
Don't.
not watching you.
Don't watch
Don't, it just upset you.
Well, what happened, man? What
I have
happened?
never seen such a shower of rubbish in all my life.
Why have you watched it?
Why, did you not watch it last week?
Actually, Lee, can I ask you a question? Why, on a serious note, so BBC Question Time still remains one of the biggest political shows in Europe, right? Why do people watch it?
Hasn't it dropped the
Because they
audience?
want the-
Yeah,
want-
but still,
want
it's
the
still
pain.
massive.
Yeah.
They want the pain of it because I've just watched it and I cannot believe what I'm hearing. You got 99% of them in there are pure Labour and Labour activists. And Billy Bragg, an activist, they give him the whole show.
And all the audience are mainly, like that.
Never seen anything like it.
I'll tell you my favourite. My boss, when I worked at the House of Commons as an intern, went on Question Time. And in those days, at the end of it, I don't know if it still happens, you used to have dinner with Dimbleby. I mean, obviously, Dimbleby doesn't present it now, but it was smoking in those days. And what amazed me was Dimbleby was on the Marlboro Reds all the way through the dinner. And for whatever reason, he took a disliking to Mick Hucknall, right, who was also on the panel. They get like...
That's expected, though, isn't
Dappy
it?
from N-Dubs or whatever on. Anyway, so he kept, in my view, now Dimbleby, if you sat here, I'm sure would deny it, but I thought he was blowing smoke in Mick Hucknall's face, right? He was just rude to Hucknall all the way through. And at the end of the dinner, the pièce de résistance was when Mick Hucknall said, I like collecting art, and Dimbleby said, posters don't count as art.
Yeah.
Which I thought,
Nice one, Dave.
absolutely superb.
Oh, I'll tell you what, you missed a great show. Don't ever watch it. Don't do it.
Go on, what happened? Come on, tell us.
Give us a few tasters.
By the way, just Lee, there's another thing that'll make you laugh. Our producer was in the middle of doing things as we've got on, and we were slagging off and saying, "Oh, don't watch it. It's terrible. It's terrible." He thought we were referring to one of the shows on this station.
What did
And
Billy?
he's like, "Oh my god!"
He was panicking. What did Billy Bragg say then? Give us a few tasters.
Well, he pretty much had the entire audience under his finger, and Fiona was letting him do it. And Richard Tice was talking about the real stuff. And every time he said something, they were like, "What do you reckon, audience? Way!" And that's how it all went.
Idiots.
You know what I mean?
Thanks, Lee. Let's go to Ali in West Yorkshire. Ali,
we
mate,
like
Ali.
Ali.
What's going on,
Like
Ali?
Hi guys, you alright?
Yeah, not bad, mate.
So, like, a few things obviously to talk about. First, I want about the digital IDs.
Yeah.
If it does stop illegal migration, would it not be a good thing, though?
It's not going to stop it, though, is it?
The problem is, historically, we've always had this idea in Britain, which I'm sure you've got sympathy with, which is this idea that papers, please, is not an appropriate thing. And actually, it's about that relationship between us and the public authorities and us and the police. Funnily enough, I've got friends of mine who are from abroad who just can't understand it and think we're completely mad. But I think, so the price of not having digital ID or whatever is that, it is sometimes a little bit hard to investigate crime. But the advantage is that digital IDs fundamentally change your relationship with the government.
Right.
You become a slave, basically. You lose your freedom.
Right, but like, doesn't our national insurance number mean, like, isn't that the ID?
Well,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It is. It is. And it isn't. I mean, it's a bit weird because they've tried.
Like, illegal people can't have NI.
Yeah, but they come here, they
like,
haven't got a passport. They can just start a blank slate, say whoever they want. They just basically start afresh.
Yeah, I mean, look, bringing data together and cross-referencing. But to be fair, the police do that all the time. The police national computer is a hugely powerful database. My argument, Ali, is the reason there are so many illegal immigrants here is we've invited them in and let them stay.
yeah.
I mean,
I just don't want a copper to say, what's your name? And you have to say it. Why should you? We live in a free country. We've always had that right.
The illegal numbers is such a small number. It's the legal.
It's the legal. That's the million Boris wave is the worry, yeah.
Ali,
You're right.
Ali, I wanted to ask you this question because I've had an argument with a very dear friend of mine about Islamophobia. Right. So can I tell you what my argument is? My argument is that we should remain a predominantly Christian country. I'm happy to say that to everybody. But also...
it is a Christian country.
It is a Christian country.
So whilst I value my friends from the Islamic world, I'm not particularly bothered whether they're Muslim or not Muslim, but although nobody cooks like a Pakistani, I will say that. But my point is this. I think that you can be a respectful, decent person and also say too many people are coming over from abroad. I don't think that makes you Islamophobic. And I think similarly, I take issue with people who say, oh, because you're critical of, say, a Pakistani ghetto in Bradford, that means that you are anti-Muslim, anti-Pakistani. And I don't feel that way. I feel like we've got too many people coming to the country to integrate them properly. What's your view? Am I wrong?
I would say it's more the integration, and it's far more the legal migration issue. The illegal is such a small number.
That's the red herring, isn't it? While we're moaning about the 50,000, we're getting 1 million a year. And a lot of them will never pay any tax. What use is why do we want people to move here beyond benefits for the rest of their lives? What's the benefit to us apart from paying for them? It's ridiculous.
Exactly, like that's sort of the where we will agree, but probably where we won't disagree is that I do agree with the government's decision to recognise a Palestinian state. I thought that was a good decision.
Why? Just a matter of interest.
Reward Hamas for their October 7th.
Just
of course it is. They thanked him for it.
No, stop.
They thanked him for it.
Please stop for a second. Do us a favour.
5 seconds in, and you jump on Hamas on me straight away.
Ali,
I think they've got something to do with it.
Before we do anything, Ali.
I said to you before that I'm a supporter of the Palestinians.
Stop for 1 second, because look, I think this is really important. Can you do me a favour, Ali?
Hamas have said that they won't be in charge.
No, Ali, do me a favour. Ali, do me a favour. I just want, for all of our viewers and listeners, just to understand what the argument in favour of recognising the Palestinian state is. Can you explain that to us quickly?
Just that they have an inherent right for self-determination, and it's because of the illegal settlements that have cut into the West. The West Bank is so fragmented. East Jerusalem is annexed and it's separate now.
What do you hope to be?
Gaza is now basically...
Yeah, but the thing is, if they get the vote, they'll vote for Hamas, and then what happens? Because Starmer's going to say you can't have Hamas, so Britain's now a colonial state again, which is totally what Keir Starmer doesn't want to be.
What's the... Sorry, let me ask another question. I mean, what practical difference will it make? Is this just symbolic, or is it practical?
It's probably, at this point, it is symbolic, simply because look at what's on the ground. But in my view, the Palestinian Authority is the legitimate government of Palestine, and they should be able to govern Gaza once this war is over. Hamas have even said, frankly, they don't even control Gaza.
But they'd vote for Hamas. That's why Mahmoud Abbas won't have a vote, because he knows Hamas will win with 80% of the vote.
They vote for Hamas because of the way Israel treats Palestinians in the West Bank, in Gaza.
But Ali, let me ask you this. Ali, let me ask you this. My understanding is the British mandate in Palestine ends with the creation of a Palestinian state called Jordan and a Jewish state called Israel. That wasn't something that the British particularly loved as an idea, but it was heavily pressured by the Americans because of the Holocaust and all of those things. My question is this.
And the Declaration as well.
Okay. The Jews were the Palestinians. Before 1948, Palestinians were Jews, Arabs and Christians, Muslims and Christians.
Sure, but let me just finish.
What happened during the mandate time is Zionist militias would attack Arabs They would attack British troops.
Well, there was a civil war. It happened on both sides attacked each other.
Can I just finish my point for everyone? So here's my question to Ali, which is this. If there is now what I call a tri-state solution, which is to say that the British mandate in Palestine will now become 3 countries, Jordan, Israel and Palestine, will there not then next be a quad-state solution where somebody will say, right, we've now got Jordan, we've now got Palestine, the West Bank and Gaza. However,
which was originally Jordan and Egypt, by the way.
This bit. Hang on a second. This bit of Tel Aviv, say, is majority Palestinian. Now we need a quad-state solution, and then is it what, a cinquet solution? Is it not better? And I know this sounds awful for people of Palestinian descent to move to the Palestinian state, which is Jordan.
Well, no, because Jordan has said that the reason why Jordan and Egypt have such heavy guarded borders with Gaza, Egypt, and Jordan with the West Bank is because they don't want Israel to drive out any more Palestinians into those lands. That's why. But also, just on your issue, I take your point, but I just think there isn't a consensus within the Palestinians that some Palestinians even want a one state where they're part of Israel, but they don't. At the moment, Israel is a Jewish supremacy state. So they want to be part of it. If they to one state, to be equal under the law, treated like human beings, respected, have full law.
Hamas want a one-state solution. They just want to eradicate Israel. I mean, that's just plain to see.
Ali, look. Ali, hang on a second. Ali,
anymore. The gangs run Gaza now. Frankly, if you look at it, the gangs of feudal lords are in charge.
Okay, Ali, look. This is interesting to me. But here's the next thing that I wanted to say to you, which is this. Look, there is
actually having a civil debate about this, which is quite surprising.
Yeah, there's a plurality of opinion here. Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. That was probably Keir Starmer.
I'm sure that's a fault. All right, Ali, if you call back in, you'll come straight through. I'm sure it's a fault. Let's go to a break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, this is Talk. And look, we lost Ali, and it's now going straight to voicemail. He does get that fault occasionally. I think he lives in a dodgy mobile.
It's up north, isn't it?
But let me ask you this, Ash, the question conversely. Right. In my mind, if you were to recognise the Palestinian state, what you could say is, look, first of all, the West Bank was never Israel, and bluntly, they don't want most of it anyway, right? But also, it forces the Palestinians.
Maybe Judea and Samaria, wasn't it?
Yes, but it forces the Palestinians to be much more serious than they've been before. I mean, if it's a symbolic move, are you really?
Well, the thing is, Mahmoud Abbas hasn't had a vote because he knows Hamas would win. Hamas would win, especially with all this gravitas given by Starmer last week. Oh, we're now going to recognise the Palestinian state because of what Hamas did. Basically, that's what's happened.
But if Hamas...
done.
If Hamas was a legal political party in Israel, and obviously it's not, but if it were a legal political party, then the Palestinians who live in Israel would not vote for it. So it's not universally true.
Well, I think they would, because they just legally want to, they'll get more power then. They've got an embassy now here.
No, I mean the actual... In Israel proper... The pre-67 borders, those guys, those Palestinians are not pro-Hamas at all, are they?
What, the legal? Who, the Mahmoud Abbas lot?
No, I'm talking about the Palestinians who are in Israel.
Oh, right,
live in Israel
they're
proper.
pro-Israel. They want to stay in Israel. They like it just how it is.
It's not a complete dead loss, because those Palestinians that have engaged with the Jewish state...
Well, they're living the best lives in the Middle East for people in the Arab world.
It is. And by the way, just to say one thing, we can criticise the IDF as much as you want, but I've met Arabs that live in Israel, and I have to say they're quite keen on Israel. There's
a lot of Muslims in the IDF. People don't realise there's a lot of Christians, there's a lot of Muslims. They're very pro-Israel. It's like Americans. It's like they're pro their country. And, the Bedouins, they're Muslims in
OK, who's been waiting the longest?
Jack, let's say hi, Jack. Hi, Jack. In South Wales. Borough Dar.
Yes.
Borough Morning. Are you in Swansea?
No, Caerphilly.
Caerphilly?
Taipei?
Taipei. Is that in...
What?
Caerphilly.
Caerphilly. How does...
Caerphilly?
Caerphilly?
No.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah, right.
First of all, am I able to speak to Ken?
No, he's not here. Oh, well, we have got Ken later, but we'll pass on a message to him.
No, I'd like to speak to him. From an atheist to...
Look, we're going to make it happen, right? Wait there, Jack, we're going to get there. Right, in fact, tell us what you're going to ask him. We'll get him up while you're talking.
Well,
you're an atheist, and what do you want to put to him?
First of all, about the rapture, that didn't happen.
Right, Ken's ready. Let's... oh, no, he's not. Right, go on, yeah.
By the way, I'm taking Ken out for his 80th birthday dinner tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
Really?
Who wants to come? Elephants and Castle Weatherspoons.
I've got dinner, actually, tomorrow.
We've lost Ken. You're going to have to tell us what you want to tell him, Jack, and then we're going to hope for the best.
Right, Andre, you're a religious man yourself.
Ish.
You're Catholic.
Yeah, ish.
Ish.
Well, I mean, there's no point in saying that I'm on my knees every night.
Well, he is, but not for that reason.
I knew I walked myself into that. I walked myself into it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Ken, here's Ken. Have a chat, Ken. Hallelujah. And morning. Here's Jack for you. He's going to pose you some atheistic questions. Away you go, Jack.
Morning,
Hello,
Ken.
Jack. Hello, Jack.
Hello.
No, hi, Jack's better.
I'd like you to tell me, Ken, who was the first person in the Bible to lie?
Who is the first person in the Bible to what?
Lie.
Rise.
Not rice, life. Adam, it was Adam, wasn't it? Adam.
No.
The first person to lie in the Bible, Adam and Eve, were the first... the two of them were guilty of lying.
The first person in the Bible to lie was God.
Why?
Why?
Yes.
God doesn't tell lies, Jack.
God told lies. What did he say to Adam and Eve? He said that they would die on the same day that they eat the forbidden fruit. And did they die on that day? No.
Yes, they died spiritually.
No. Oh, that's nice.
No.
Spiritually, they died spiritually.
No.
It's the best way to die.
No. And tell me, Ken, what do you think about all this rapture? Why haven't he come back?
Well, the rapture of the church is imminent. The rapture means to be caught up to meet the Lord in the air. God, Jesus is returning for his church, the true born-again believers, and we are going to be caught up in the air to meet the Lord in the air. Hallelujah. And that is imminent. It could happen anytime.
Do you really believe that, Ken?
Of course I do. It's in the Bible. I believe the Bible, Jack, by the grace of God.
What about talking snakes and donkeys?
What about what?
Talking snakes and donkeys. Do you believe that?
I saw a talking donkey.
Oh, there's a few talking donkeys on LBC, believe me.
Especially after 10 in the morning.
But listen, Jack.
Actually, that's an ass, isn't it?
Jack, let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course you can.
Jack, one day you're going to die, right? That's certain, right? You agree?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. The day you die, whenever it is, it could be tonight for all you know, where will you go, heaven or hell?
That's depressing.
That's the biggest question in your life, Jack.
Where will I go if I die?
Where will you go, heaven or hell, when you die?
Carefully mortuary.
Where will you go, Jack?
I'll go nowhere, Ken. I'll go...
No.
Lights out.
According to Jesus and the Word of God, when you die, you'll either go straight to hell or you'll go straight to heaven. If you don't believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior...
Can I ask you something, Ken, please?
Jack, let me just explain to you, please, my dear friend.
Do you believe in the soul?
Jack, this is important because this may be your last
Do you believe in the soul?
Do I believe in the what?
My question, please. Do you believe in the soul?
The power.
The soul.
The soul.
The soul, yes.
The soul.
Yes.
Whose soul? Your soul or our soul?
Yeah, that's what Kenneth is, obviously, but anyway, you believe in the soul.
Yes.
So why when a Jehovah's Witness knocks the door and they don't believe in a soul?
Well, that's their church. That's the Jehovah's Witnesses is a religious cult, Jack. They believe Jesus is the Michael the Archangel. It's a religious cult. They're not Christian.
So why is your God right over Islam or Sikh or Muslim or any? Why is your God the right one, Ken?
Why is my God the right one?
The God of the Bible is evil.
The God of the Bible is who?
He's evil. He's a monster.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear you say that.
Okay. Hang on a second, Jack. Let me put this to Ken, because I think that is an interesting point, actually. The God of the Old Testament appears to be much more vengeful than the one that's presented in the New Testament. How do you square that, Ken?
Oh, that's not true, Andre. Jesus said to his apostles...
100% true.
Jesus said to his apostles, he gave them a very severe warning. He says, "Fear not him who can destroy only the body, but rather fear him who can destroy both the body and soul in hell." That's a warning to Christians.
Mm-hmm. So you're
a warning. See, that's who we have to fear. You see, the problem in the world today is there's little fear of God.
Ken,
Jack, listen, Jack.
No, actually, let's leave it there, Jack. I'll tell you why, Jack. Because Ken has dedicated his life to Christianity, and some of your questions are not as in depth as perhaps he might be able to answer. But go on.
Well, no. Well, of course he'd be to answer. I wanted to ask him if he's a true Christian, as he claims, how can he justify a God who's apparently all-knowing before anyone is born? So, if he's all-knowing, he created, say, me to be an atheist. He created Ken to be a blinking Christian. And then he gives somebody else some bone cancer, a toddler. And, what's all that about? Like, God is a monster.
Yeah, good question.
No, God has created nobody to be an atheist. God has created... God
He made Jack an atheist. He made Jack an atheist.
No, you become an atheist because you refuse to believe in the
avoided the question like as a politician.
You see, the only way we can know God is through the Bible.
But why does he give children cancer? That's a good question. Why does he do that, God?
God doesn't give children cancer.
Well, who does then?
Sickness and disease came on the world because...
Why did God give us such a lovely disease that kills toddlers?
He never gave us that.
Oh, who made that then?
Well, let me answer you, Asha, now.
Sorry, man, I'm talking to Ken.
but God did not create anybody to have cancer. The Bible says the wages of sin is death. We die because we're all sinners.
What, a 2-year-old kid?
Listen, we die because of our sin.
What, a 2-year-old kid's a sinner? What, did he nick his brother's toys?
No. That comes right through his father and mother, the children. And
they're punished for the parents' sins. Yeah. Put the 2-year-old through hell for the parents.
You, Ash, were infected by the sin of your mother and father. So was I. You were born that.
Well, it's probably true.
I can honestly say, you can shove your God at the Bible up your ass.
And on that bombshell, we'll take a little break and come back with all more of your calls after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, what about this? I've got a mate of mine who is collecting, you know that McDonald's have got on this promotion at the moment, which is
the Monopoly thing. Every year they do it, yeah.
Yeah, so what you do is you get your item, it comes with a little sticker on it, you pull the sticker off and it's got a QR code. He scanned 2 of the same colour, right? I forget what it was, like Vine Street and something else, I don't know, right? Anyway, if he got the third one of this set, the third card, he would win an LG TV, right? Get that. So he's got 2, he needs 3, the third one will get him the LG TV. I don't know what that's worth, 1,500 quid, 2 grand, no idea. So he bought his mate, lunch at McDonald's, and the guy ripped from the fries the winning ticket that would have got him an LG TV. And he said, "Can I have that?" And the bloke said no. And he said, "But if I have that, I'll win the telly." And the bloke goes, "Yeah, but it's my ticket." And he goes, "Yeah, but I did buy it for you, and you could give it to me." He said, "No, no, no." So my mate has now not won the telly. And I think there's one argument, so I think it's really, really bad, but I think 2 of the tickets are quite easy to get and one's quite difficult. So if you get the difficult one, it may well be that even if you've got none, it makes it a lot easier. But that is bad.
That sounds like the work of Hamburglar.
Do you know what? I love that little trick. In fact, we've got to do this one day. Can we do this on camera? right, where what you do is you borrow £1 from somebody outside a shop, you go in and you come out with a fake lottery scratch card. You know those ones where you win $1 million, or it looks like you win $1 million. Scratch off and go, I've won $1 million quid,
test out
and
your
see what happens to the person that's loaned you the pound.
Yeah, man.
Right? They go absolutely wild. Problem is, it's going to be quite hard for us to do it because we're on the telly.
Yeah,
well, what we'll do is we'll get the woke wabbit.
By the way, Amy, she's young. Do you know about Hamburglar? Do you know about Hamburglar? Oh, you do. So they do study it in history, because you never see Hamburglar and the adverts anymore, do you? Anyway, let's go to Pete in Warrington. Pete.
Hiya.
You all right, man?
How you doing? You all right?
We're all right, man. What's up, Pete?
Right. Nice to speak to you, Andrea.
Can you take the phone out your nostrils? Let's go to Chris. We'll try and get him back. Chris in Epsom, where they invented salt. Chris.
Where they invented salt? What's that?
Yeah, you invented your salt, didn't you, in Epsom? And printers.
We spoke before, Ash.
James Wales was from there. He was from Ewell Village.
I remember talking to printers. I remember talking to printers. I made a video and sent it to Hewlett Packard, no ends. I've got a Hewlett Packard 8350 stylus, whatever, and I went, here's how to improve it, and I dropped it off a building. Right? It never works. Never works.
It didn't after that.
You remember, Ash? We spoke before.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Driver at Daintree.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, bless him.
Yeah.
What a man. Anyway,
miss the man.
Yeah. Couple of things, 2 things, all right?
Yeah.
And the 2 are very important. Digital ID.
Yes.
All right. Now, I owned a tech company. The idea of a live ID card, it's not an ID card at all. It will lock everybody down. The reason is, when you open a bank account, you've got to have the card so you can open the bank account, right? Mm-hmm. That means the government then has open access to your bank.
Yes,
they already have, actually, the HMRC can.
Yeah, they gave themselves the right the other year.
To a certain degree, but also the card, because it's live, they could say, for instance, down the line, not immediately, down the line, and you have to look at what's been happening. Right, in this country now, any withdrawal or pay-in from the bank of over £800 is reported to HMRC.
Yeah.
In Europe, I don't know if you're aware of this, in Europe, you cannot purchase anything for over €1,000 in cash.
Yeah.
It has to go through a bank. Otherwise, it's illegal.
And now the police, if they stop you at the roadside and they find £1,000 cash or more, they can just confiscate and say, where'd you get this from? I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Well, what they're doing is they're squeezing cash down.
Yeah.
Now, you have to remember that 51% of the people in this country are now reliant on government money, either through wages working for the civil service or on benefits. All right? So further down the line, after they've issued this card, they bring out a CBDC, a central bank digital currency.
Yes.
Now, what they then do is they pay all that 51% with CBDC, and they start squeezing cash even further.
Yes.
So then you can't buy an air ticket to travel because you've already gone on one holiday this year. You can't buy your...
Or you said something on Twitter. You said something on Twitter, and now you can't get the train, you can't go to the pub where you'd have to scan in. They can punish you. It's basically the Chinese system they're implementing of social control, the social credit system.
When you look at the fact that... I like Trump because he's done what he said he was going to do to get elected. But when you think that Larry Fink from BlackRock and Bill Gates got 4 hours with Trump on the morning of his inauguration, then a week later they had 2 hours with Starmer in number 10, for which Freedom of Information Act, they won't tell you what they talk about.
And then the farmers suddenly got their big shock with the inheritance tax, which now passes on to family businesses of any kind, which has gone quiet. No one's talking about it.
And then they went to Australia and sat with the Premier of Australia. Right, that's out the way. That's the digital ID card is 450,000 now signed the petition already in one night.
Against it, yeah. There's a petition running online.
Yeah.
I'll sign that when I get in the car.
I signed it at 350,000. An hour later, it's 452. Right now, here's another thing which Ash, it's going to make you mad, right? The guy with the knife that attacked the guy that was burning, I can't remember the names, they were burning the Quran.
He got a suspended sentence, yeah.
Correct.
Doesn't even go to prison, not a day in prison.
No, not
by the way,
sorry,
just to stop you, the Judge Adam Huddleston, who decided to spare that guy prison, even though he'd stabbed somebody for burning a Quran, during the Brexit debate, jailed somebody for a year for sending angry emails to John Bercow.
Also, Robert Jenrick pointed out that he should have been charged with loads of other offences that were actually more serious, but he wasn't. I mean, we're basically in this two-tier system that they were trying to make official, but they haven't made official because it's still happening, isn't it? It's happening.
Now, let me give you some dots, all right? I'm not going to join the dots. I'll let you join the dots, but I'm going to give you some factual information.
Okay.
All right? A.W. Hiddleston has not published where he went in his bio where he went to uni, but he turns up in '85 as a regular at the Oxford Law Society debates against capital punishment and promoting the idea of rehabilitation rather than caging.
Yeah.
Now, his best mate is David Panic, who is basically Labour's go-to silk. All right, they still lunch at Lincoln's Inn Fields, and Panic's married to a Guardian columnist. All right, now he's also trustee for the Howard League Prison Reform, which is all about rehabilitation.
Yeah, it's about letting criminals out early.
And get this. This is the kicker, right? This is the real kicker. He sat on a panel for the Fabian Society's Criminal Justice in Crisis report in '98. And minutes say he pushed for cultural sensitivity in sentencing code for lighter touch on religious motives.
Well, we're seeing that, aren't we?
So basically what he says is if you are a jihadi, that should be taken into account and you're given a lesser sentence because you have a genuine, heartfelt political belief in radical Islam.
Yeah, but you see, all these judges, when you look into them deeply, like I have when I've just given you that information, they're all linked back, right, to university, to left-wing leanings. All right, they're all doing favours. I mean, do you think this is also the judge that made that ruling that you said on the
angry Brexiteer?
Yeah, the Brexit against the Brexiteer. He's also done a lot of other.
And just to be quite clear, Chris, in the eyes of Judge Huddleston, if you stab somebody for burning a Quran, that is not serious. Whereas if you send John Bercow an email calling him a TWAT, then that is serious and you should go to prison.
But also, the guy that burnt the Quran, in his court case, they said, because you were attacked by a knife by a Muslim guy, that aggravates it. So actually, it's encouraging that sort of thing. I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on. Anyway, thanks, Chris.
I've said that knife crime has been effectively legalised for jihadis. That's not quite true. But the fact that, I mean, just to reiterate Ash's case there, a guy burns a Quran outside the Turkish consulate. By the way, don't burn a Quran. It's really knobbish to do it. But anyway, the guy burns a Quran outside the Turkish consulate, and a guy stabs him, and the judge makes his punishment worse because he says the fact you were stabbed by somebody proves just how angry people are about Quran burning. And I think we can see.
Also, this guy, the driver, the delivery driver on the bicycle, tripped him up. Why has he not been charged with what's it called when they're joined, a joint enterprise? Yeah. Because he tried to trip him up so the guy he saw running with a knife could stab him better, and then he kicked him on the floor. What's happened to him? Anyway, look, we got to take a little break, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
By the way, did I hear you during the break having people disputing, oh, well, it was only a bread knife, therefore it doesn't matter?
The judge actually said, yeah, it wasn't a very sharp knife, like as if that really makes a difference. You can still kill someone with a butter knife.
Well, Skull Shaver in the adverts have got a smooth blade. Well, I don't know what a smooth blade is.
But it'll give you another shaving head.
Anyway, you're never meant to refer to the adverts if you're a presenter. It's a bad idea. But I'll tell you what, do buy one.
No, we're not even allowed to do that. No, we're breaking all the Ofcom regulations. Just remain neutral. We don't even hear the ads.
If you're ever going to attack someone, use a smooth blade. No, I'm joking. Do you know what? I just want to say to you on a serious note, something that I should have said before the break, just to make it even more clear. There has never been a case in the history of this country where being a victim of crime was an aggravating factor in your sentencing, where they go, oh, well, you burnt a Quran, that wasn't that bad, but the fact that somebody stabbed you for it makes it really bad for you.
By the way, the guy who burnt the book got remanded in prison. The guy who did the stabbing got bailed.
No, it's just ridiculous.
There you go.
All right, Pete in Warrington, we think we've restored your line. Are you all right? You there?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
No.
Hi, thank you for taking the call. Do watch us all the time. Fantastic, both of you guys.
Thanks, man.
Just a quick one. What it is, I just want to just say about the government, how corrupt they are, really, and how bad they've really, treating the English people.
Yeah.
You can see what state we're in as a country. One is that also I just want to say to Ash, understand, because obviously with the Jews, I've been to Jerusalem myself.
Yeah.
Jews are absolutely lovely people, more than welcome. There's all types of different people there, you know.
Yeah. Thanks,
now,
man. Yeah.
I'll tell you what it is, so you understand. I'm a gypsy, yeah?
Right.
Yeah.
We was put in the concentration camps with
correct
the Jews.
Right, yeah.
You probably already know that.
Yeah, and people who were mentally ill were executed, and gay people, obviously.
Also the Poles, and also, and we've got
Poles, political prisoners.
In the concentration camps.
Yeah.
Now, if you look in this country, we come in the 1700s in this country, we did, and we've integrated into society. We've paid our taxes. We've obviously we're English. We class ourselves as British like anybody else.
Yeah.
But most of the majority of the gypsies in this country, in the travelling community, we actually stand with Israel. Yeah. Now, you've got the other guy, a minute ago, you just had on, who was on about Palestine and
yes.
Obviously the Gazans and all that carry on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yeah,
keep going.
Oh, lovely. Where this country's concerned, I mean, you can see it's gone down, like Trump said, it's going down, going down.
It's going to hell, yeah. Like
100%. But we've got a free run of the Islamists just taking over the country. They've just come in. They've literally coming over the borders. There's groups of undocumented men living in hotels, grooming children, grooming women. You've seen them all in the time. And we've got these lunatics running up and down, supporting them. What do you think about that?
Can I ask you a question just before we go any further? So first of all, I think anybody who integrates into this country is a good thing. Would you support a gypsy Israel, if you like, i.e. to say that gypsies have been discriminated throughout history in various countries, now they want their own homeland?
Right, I'll tell you where the gypsies originate from India.
Yeah, I know that.
But they're a travelling community. They don't really have a homeland. Do they have a homeland?
Bedouins, and they travel.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's a different case, isn't it, in that way?
The gypsies originate from India. That's where they originate from, Punjab.
Yeah.
But there is actually gypsies that actually live in Israel, and they call them, the actual name of them, they're called Dom. I've met them, the taxi drivers. They've integrated into Israel. They're actually there.
Yeah.
And now they actually got into Israel, just give you a little bit of information. At the time Moses had actually, it came out of Egypt,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was actually known as the people of the horse, because if you know...
Well, they say gypsies comes from the word Egypt, doesn't it? Because of the it comes from that, yeah.
Well, the majority.
Like there was originally the Gypt, and then there was the Egypt.
And then there was the E's, and they all had a big rave.
Yeah. No, because it was Egypt. It was the electronic version.
When Moses had actually taken the obviously the slaves out of Egypt, obviously at that time.
Well, the slaves, the Israelites.
There was a group of people called the people of the horse, and that's where they came out of.
Oh, really?
That's where they originated from.
Do you know something? I'll tell you a little bit of Gypsy history that I would love to know more about.
By the way, Egypt and the whole Middle East was Christian then, and Europe wasn't. I mean, we don't realise it was all Egypt, Syria. It was all Christian. It basically got ran out of town.
Yeah, true.
And we know why.
You had a warlord that came over and tried to take over what's all Iraq and Syria and all over the Middle East.
Well, that's Zoroastrian in Iran.
But do you know that Gypsies fought with the Serbian army in Yugoslavia against the Germans and scored some victories?
Yeah. But in this country here, I mean, obviously they have integrated, and obviously we love this country, and that's the most important thing. But we can see which way the society is going. But if you look today, when we say integration and, we like all types of different people that is integrated into this country. But if you look, you've got Punjabis, Muslims, all types of different ethnic groups that actually work in Parliament, but you'll never see any Gypsies. There won't any Gypsies or any travellers have that kind of role.
No.
Well, there's still a racism, isn't it? It's more accepted with Gypsies for some reason. It's like that Jimmy Carr joke and everything. It seems to be, it's all right, that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you've noticed, there's no role whatsoever for us in Parliament or anything like that.
Yeah.
Why is that, Gypsy?
I think it's a prejudice that it still seems to carry on with Gypsies.
If you saw the Gypsy billionaire Alfie Best began making political donations and sponsored scholarships to Oxbridge, and in reality, the HMRC just started coming after him. I mean, the most ludicrous one of them all was they did him for his helicopter. Right now, the reason the guy had a helicopter is because all of his campsites were in different places. If you try and drive around 300 campsites, you'll never do anything else. So he had this helicopter. They did him for tax on loads of things. The reality is, it is acceptable to be racist towards them. That's the reality.
Oh yeah, listen. Any other ethnic group, you'd get scolded for. But if you mention anything like towards Gypsy, especially Alfie Best and that. That guy, Alfie, he's a lovely person.
He is.
Beautiful man. And basically, he needs that.
Well, we lost. I'll tell you something with Alfie Best. We lost something when he left the country. But the HMRC, the government, the Conservative Labour, didn't give a toss. Didn't give a toss.
They're not interested. All they're interested in is just box-ticking people who's going to vote for them to keep them in a place where they can fill their own pockets. Years ago, Robin Hood would need a mask, wouldn't he, to start hitting folk. These guys just wear
Pete, I am going to cut you off simply because...
Oh, prejudice.
Because
call us back tomorrow, man. We are on tomorrow.
Yeah, we do want to talk to you more,
10 o'clock,
Pete.
and of course the whale clip at 11.
I'll tell you what Pete can be. Pete can be our
Gypsy correspondent.
Our alley, but for Gypsies.
I had some more questions, but let's quickly go to Heather in Girvan. Heather.
Hello, Andre. Yes, yesterday I went to Lidl and I bought the Ben Bracken whiskey, as you mentioned.
Did you? Which one? The Isla? Isla.
The Isla one. Well, when I was looking at Ben Bracken whiskey, they had them in different colour bottles.
Yeah, they do. So it's the green one that I generally drink, but all of them are good. Just to explain to everyone who was...
I've got the
most whiskey is brown.
Burgundy one.
What happens is Ben Bracken at Lidl buy from a really good single malt distiller. They won't tell you which one it is, but the green one is Bowmore Legend. But anyway.
Well, I've got the, the Burgundy.
Do you like it?